Once upon a time, in the town of Greenvale, rain was more than just water falling from the sky. It was a blessing, a life giver that brought wildflowers to bloom and filled the rivers where dragonflies danced. From young to old, everyone cherished those gentle showers, never suspecting that the clouds above might one day carry a darker secret. On the edge of a sun-dappled meadow, amidst the distant thunderheads, stood Lila, a bright-eyed 12-year-old, always full of questions. Her hand reached out eagerly to capture a raindrop, the cool water glinting on her palm. At her side, old Tom, her grandfather, leaned patiently on his cane, his eyes tracing the line where the forest met the fields. "Grandpa," Lila asked, peering up at the sky, "why does the rain taste funny near the factories?" Old Tom paused, a sigh escaping his weathered lips. "Ah, Lila, the rain used to carry nothing but life. Nowadays, it carries secrets, too. Secrets from smokestacks and chimneys. You can't always see them, but they fall to the earth just the same. The plants drink them up, and then we eat those plants, or the animals that graze on them. Sometimes, those secrets are poisons, real poisons like mercury and chemicals that can harm our bodies in ways most folks never realize." Lila's brow furrowed. "Poisons? Like in fairy tales?" Tom nodded. "Worse in some ways, because they're real. Not curses in a story, but dangers that creep quietly into our food, our water, and our lives. Let's discover how these poisons journey from the rain to our plates." As another droplet glazed her fingertip, Lila looked closer, imagining a whole world swirling inside. And so began their journey, a story of raindrops, roots, and revelations. The sky may have seemed endless, but as it opened to rain over Greenvale, it gathered invisible cargo. From factory chimneys and power plant stacks near the edge of town, wisps of smoke and vapor carried polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs for short, the byproduct of burning coal and oil. These sticky molecules clung to dust and drifted, finally hitching a ride on the falling rain. Down in the fields where wheat and potatoes grew, each raindrop was a tiny messenger, sometimes bearing a trace of mercury. From medical thermometers to industrial waste, mercury found its way into the clouds, then into puddles and rivers, and finally, through thirsty roots, into the tissues of plants themselves. But there was more. Farmers, striving to keep weeds and insects at bay, sprayed pesticides, some of which, like atrazine, could linger in the soil for years. The rain washed these into the ground, and from there, into every tuber and stalk. Lila followed Tom across the patchwork fields, her eyes catching the cheerful leaves of potato plants. "So the plants eat the poison rain, and then we eat the plants?" she asked quietly. "Exactly. Or the animals nesting in those fields, eating the grasses dusted with rain. And when those harvests are turned into fast food meals, the poisons come right along. Unseen, unwanted, but just as real. The world of fast food always beckoned to the young and hungry. Crisp fries, soft buns, juicy burgers. But behind the bustle of the kitchen, the food carried the residue of rain-drenched secrets. Take the humble potato. When grown near Greenvale's industrial edge, it soaked up rain laced with mercury, sometimes as much as 10 to 100 times the amount found in a pure field. The crisping oil gave golden fries, but also formed another hazard. Acrylamide, a chemical produced whenever starchy food fries at high temperatures. Each large serving could contain up to 45 micrograms of acrylamide. A small amount, but multiplied day after day, it added up. Next, the wheat. These amber stalks, bathed in the same tainted rain, absorbed PAHs and trace mercury too. Baked into soft buns, their contamination was measured not in flavor, but in micrograms. Tiny, yes, but the risks of cancer grew with every bite, slowly, invisibly, over the years. And then, the cattle. Grazing on contaminated fields, cows accumulated mercury in their flesh. When ground into beef patties and slid sizzling onto a bun, a burger from polluted pastures could carry up to 10 micrograms of mercury. Enough for concern, especially for young, growing brains. Even in the sprawling kitchens of fast food chains, danger lurked. Bacteria sometimes formed stubborn biofilms in meat grinders and processors. Though rare, these biofilms could add their own toxins, making the hidden burden heavier still. Lila pressed further. Why not clean the rain before it touches the crops? Or farm far from the chimneys? Tom replied gently. Factories mean jobs for this town, and cleaning up costs money. But remember, every bit of mercury is too much, especially for young minds like yours. She remembered Tom's old friend, who sometimes forgot his own name, a subtle hint of why these poisons mattered. Some scientists whispered that mercury could play a role in brain illnesses, even Alzheimer's, though many questions remained. Within every human body, a battle was waged. Mercury's silent passage into the bloodstream allowed it to lodge deep in the brain, possibly sparking oxidative stress, the invisible flames that damage cells and minds. PAHs, acrylamide, and pesticide chemicals became gatecrashers, disrupting hormones and stirring inflammation. Even with minuscule doses, decades of exposure might tip the scales towards cancer, hormone disorders, or dementia. Leela imagined her brain as a castle under siege, mercury dragons circling its towers. We can't just let it happen, she vowed, determination hardening her voice. That afternoon, Lila and Tom set out on their own quest. They scoured libraries, wrote heartfelt letters, visited farms, and spoke up at school assemblies. News spread through Greenvale. What if farmers filtered the rainwater? That could remove nearly all of the mercury before it reached the crops. What if the fields furthest from smokestacks were prioritized for food? Tests showed safer, purer harvests with less than 1/100th the original mercury. Soon, Lila's friends petitioned the local fast food outlets. Could they choose cleaner farms and cook fries at lower temperatures? Some chains listened, bringing fresher, safer meals to the menu. The town, too, began to demand more from the factories, installing better filters, capturing more smoke, and freeing the rain a little bit at a time. One bright morning, a festival unfolded in the heart of Greenvale. Lila laughed with friends, biting into a burger from the local Clean Eats truck. The fields shimmered with life. The rain tasted sweet once more, and hope danced in every drop. So the story of Greenvale closed with sunlight and a promise. Lila and old Tom, hand in hand, strolled beneath a cloudless sky as fresh rain sparkled on the grass. In every clean bite, the town celebrated not just food, but the power to influence what came onto their plates and into their lives. The lesson endures. Like Lila, we too can fight for safer food. By choosing clean ingredients, supporting responsible farmers, and demanding less pollution, each of us defends our bodies and our brains from mercury, carcinogens, and invisible poisons. Zero mercury may be a dream, but every effort brings us closer. As the rainbow stretched over Greenvale, the promise was clear. Protect your plate, and you help protect your future.